In this episode, I talk with Kim Urbanski from Godwin Heights Middle School about their innovative zero-hour model, which is a 70-minute enrichment block built into the school day twice a month. We unpack the problem they were trying to solve, how they built staff buy-in through shared leadership, and how the model evolved to increase student voice and choice. Kim also shares early results, including improved attendance, stronger relationships, and more joy and risk-taking in core classrooms. If you're looking for a way to bring joy and connection back to your building, be sure to check this out. So enjoy your ride to or from school, your run on the treadmill, or however you like to listen, because another MASSP podcast episode starts now. Well, thank you so much, Kim, for taking the time to talk to us today about Zero Hour at Godwin Heights Middle School. Excited to learn about the program, and really just to jump in for our listeners, can you really just talk about what is this this special, unique schedule that you have set up, and maybe actually start though with kind of what was the problem or the need that you were trying to solve that led us to what Zero Hour is?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for allowing me to talk about this. I'm super excited about the program that we've started here at Godwin Heights Middle School. But back last spring, as our building school improvement team continued to meet and look at our data, it was very clear that we wanted an opportunity to find real life connections for our students. How do we continue to provide opportunities for students to connect learning to real life when it is harder and harder to get more people in more elective classes out there? So you have this challenge of enrollment budget, however that works, that controls what you can do with the people you have. And we wanted to find more real life connections. And of course, we want that in our core classes as well, but we wanted something different. We've also been focusing on our district about joy and rigor. And we wanted to find a way to also increase the joy in the classroom, not only for our students, but for our staff. And so putting those ideas together came about this idea of how can we have more of an opportunity for an enrichment where every staff member is teaching something that they're passionate about that will really help guide our students in making connections to what maybe they teach in their core class, like math or science, and connect it into something that makes the learning a little bit more fun, perhaps connects it in a different way. So all of a sudden, math might not be so challenging because I'm seeing fractions or strategies or patterns in a different way. And so this class bloomed from that. I had a lot of master schedules that I put together and basically came up with this idea of Wolverine Wednesdays. We're Godwin Heights Wolverines, so I just did the alliteration there. And the idea flowed from Wednesdays as a district are our professional learning days. Every other Wednesday, we have an early release. So when you think about Wednesdays, they're already a little bit messed up. And so we decided that Wednesday is the day, if we're going to mess something up, let's do something a little different on Wednesdays. So what we decided to do is to add this 0 hour, even though it's during the school day, on the Wednesdays that we do not have professional learning. So the opposite Wednesdays, when they were a full day of school, no early release, but Wednesdays are already messed up. So let's just mess up the other two Wednesdays, so to say. So what we did is we added a 70-minute block to start the day. So from 7:30 to 8:40, students come in, they have their normal breakfast time, and then they go to this enrichment. And that enrichment class goes till 8:40, and then we run all of our rest of our classes just shortened. So instead of a 60-minute class that we would normally have, these classes are closer to 40, 42, 43 minutes. And so we still see all students all day. We just add this elective.
And then are we then reducing the amount of time in the other classes to make this all work out time-wise?
Yep. So instead of 60 minutes that they would normally get with their first, second, third hour, now they're closer to 42 minutes with how the time works.
So still 0 hour because it's happening before we get to first hour, although it's not happening my very first year teaching, I had to teach a 0 hour class before school started, like an extra hour before. So I hear
Yeah,
0 hours
we're
sometimes.
not
And I go,
asking
oh
anyone to
man,
come
that's
in
early.
early.
I go, ooh.
We're
um,
not asking anyone to come in early. Nope.
so can you walk us through kind of the process for how kids know where to go? So it's a one of these special Wednesdays. It's a Wolverine Wednesday. I know it's a 0 hour day. I'm walking into the building. I'm a student. How do they know where they are going for that 0 hour enrichment class?
Yeah, so this was something that we've actually been able to grow throughout the year. But to start the year, brand new program, we asked students in the fall, or I'm sorry, in the spring before they left, to give us their favorite subject area. So we thought, okay, if they tell us that math is their favorite subject area, we're going to partner with them in 0 hour with the math teacher. At least that would be how we're going to start. So there's a little kid voice in this and student voice, but right now we're trying to figure out what our teachers are even teaching during this time. So we had to have a plan. So every student on their schedule has an assigned class. And so they know where they're going because they look at their schedule at 0 hour and it says, oh, math time, or 0 hour, I go to the math teacher. We did that for the first semester. And what we found, and I know that we'll probably talk about some challenges, but what we found is that students needed more voice. We needed to know exactly what teachers were teaching. And so when we got to November, I asked every staff member to give me a little synopsis of this is what I'm going to teach during 0 hour for second semester. And this is a little bit about my class. And we actually did a survey or a Google form for students, and they got to read through all the options and actually select the class they wanted. We gave them, please select your top 3 choices. And I'm proud to say that we were able to put majority of our students are in their first choice. Just a couple got their second choice based on numbers.
That's awesome. I like how, it's a model that keeps progressing, right? You said you've tried it. We thought we had a good approach to it at the start of the year. We realized, hey, we can do something even more efficient or better for students. So, so I see we give them a choice. We put them in that class. Um, from the teacher lens now, knowing that I imagine there's got to be maybe all your teachers are just really pumped to do this and they're excited because they get to teach a passion, which is fun, but with that becomes a lot of extra work, right? You have a prep hour just to get through your normal schedule of things, but then I'm sure there's some prepping and lesson planning that you need to do to prepare for this kind of new lesson that you're teaching, whether it's a passion or not. Can you just talk a little bit about like conversations you had with your teaching staff and how they approached, participating in 0 hour?
Yeah, obviously, staff buy-in is always going to be something that we have to really think about when we're trying something new. I'm proud because it came from a shared leadership team of our building school improvement, which is also, I think, helpful because you have a leader in every subject area that was kind of behind how can we do this and knew the challenge. So when they know the why, I think that helps always make anything a little bit easier for people to try. But I'll be honest, my staff for the first, I would say at least through maybe October, it was challenging. I'm a little bit overwhelmed, Kim. I'm not sure what I'm doing. I tried this, it didn't necessarily work. What resources do I have? How can I got this idea, but it's going to cost money. How can you help me? All of those things that we had to kind of work through and brainstorm, ask for some support from community and some donors to get some of the things. But I think that the buy-in grew the longer we tried it. You can't try something and give up after 1 week. And so it's taken time. I would say that the staff is at this point now in the year where they've gotten their voices heard and said, hey, kids need more choice to pick it. I want them to be able to pick the class instead of just their favorite subject. I want to change what I'm doing. Can I do this second semester? Hearing staff feedback and trying to make it better for them and for our students and having more say in what it looks like has, I think, increased the buy-in. I would also say that they're finding joy, and that joy is contagious, right? They're having fun teaching it, and they're building relationships with students that maybe they didn't connect with before because they're seeing different sides of teaching staff, or there's meaningful work happening, or if it's relevant, and all of a sudden that changes things. It's a little bit low pressure because it's not connected to any sort of evaluation. I think that helps. Low stakes, more risk taking. I think staff feels more comfortable. So I believe all of those things and just the daily routine of we're going to keep doing it has gotten to us to this point where I have a few staff saying, can we do it more often next year?
Yeah. Yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah, that's where we're at.
Kim, because I realize I didn't ask up front, can you just describe your school and the size and how many teachers and students and that sort of thing? And then
Yeah.
also, because I realize I haven't asked, can you give us some examples of some of these 0 hour enrichment classes? Because I'm biased here. I was an elective teacher, so I assumed at first people would be like, "Oh, my favorite subject is art or gym
Mhm.
or whatever," right? So those classes, right, would explode. But I'm just curious to see kind of what is the art teacher doing things around art, just an extension opportunity? Is it really all over the place? So just a little bit about your school in general, and then what types of courses you're offering.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, Godwin Heights Middle School is located just outside of Grand Rapids. We're actually in the city of Wyoming. I would consider us a neighborhood school. I have about 420 students within my building. And I also have 2 regional ASD classrooms, and they participated in 0 hour through unified sports during this time, where our PE teacher, her class is unified sports, and my regional students go with our teachers and they're using the main gym and doing a unified program. Um, the makeup of our school, very urban setting. Dynamic or demographics of my students would be a higher percent, 65% Hispanic, 20-ish% African American, and then the rest of that percentages are white and a little bit of different cultures here at the end, but very predominantly urban setting. My students or my teaching staff consists of 25 teachers, and every classroom teacher has an enrichment. So my special education teachers we have a push-in model, but they have their own enrichment. My ML teachers, because we have a large ML population, they also have their own enrichment classes. So every staff member has one, including my elective teachers, which allows for the size of how many students are in each class to be smaller than maybe a normal classroom setting. Anywhere between 17 to 20 students is what we're looking more at than a typical classroom of 28 to 30. Some of the examples of classes that we have happening, I talked about unified sports is taking place. We had forensic science class happening with one of our science teachers. We had t-shirt printing. We partnered with a local business and did some screen printing, and that actually happened through one of my science teachers. I had a physics kind of theme where they were designing roller coasters with marbles in one of my science classes. My art teacher is doing a ceramic studio, focusing mainly on pottery and allowing the kids to really work in that area, because that, as a former art teacher myself, that's a favorite of students, and you don't get to do it as often during the time in the classroom. My math teacher, one of them, is doing a focus on the stock market, how to invest, a little bit of real life finances, so to say. I have another math teacher that is doing math strategies through gaming. So they're playing different games and teaching strategy. My band teacher is doing a music kind of studio. They've done some recording and creating music through technology. One of my ELA teachers has been studying the joy of reading, and they read some books that maybe they don't get to normally read in class that are a little bit more casual, and they did some fun activities with that. I have a creative writing class happening from a language arts teacher. There is a communications class. One of my ELA teachers is doing communication skills, learning how to talk to one another through trying to play different games. So we started with something as simple as spoons and how do you communicate because so many students nowadays tend to struggle to talk to one another with the use of so much technology. So just all about how to communicate. And those are a few that I can think off the top of my head, but there's many that are happening, and they're all so unique and different. And
Great.
they've kind of exchanged, even grown through the year as the year's gone. So
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Um, so I'd like to talk. You've been working on it this year, and I know the year isn't done yet, but have you seen any sort of, whether it's quantitative with like increased attendance or this, or just even qualitative, like you've just noticed a difference in your kids' engagement carrying over the rest of the day? Like what results have you seen from doing this so far?
yeah, personally, one of my goals was, hey, can we get more kids here on time? Right? We always want to find ways to increase attendance. I had a goal of trying to get our daily attendance rate to 94.9%. That was like a goal. It's a couple percentage points higher than it's been in the past. And we currently are maintaining that. We're about a percentage and a half above last year. Now, it's really hard to say it's directly connected to this, but anytime we have an increase in attendance, daily average attendance, I'm going to take that as a
Yep.
win and connect it to this. I think it's another benefit of this, or what we have seen, is that I think that staff is more willing to take risks or find ways to increase joy now in their core classes because they've seen the engagement of students increase in this class through finding connections to relevancy, to having a little bit more fun. How can we or having students talk more? How can we bring that in? And I think that has helped staff maybe feel more comfortable to take risks. They did it in a lower pressure setting, and now maybe I can try to be a little bit more reflective and creative in something I've been doing a little bit longer. So that's kind of a benefit that we've started to see. And student wise, students love coming. So even this morning, today was 0 hour, right? It's Wednesday,
Yes,
right?
that's right. It's Wednesday.
So this morning you're in the cafeteria saying good morning, and you say, hey, don't forget it's 0 hour today. And the smiles, right?
Yeah.
So I don't have data to show that, but I can
Yep.
see it. And students are excited to go to these classrooms, and it's not every day, right? It's out of the routine. It's a little different. And I think they're enjoying it. We've had some opportunities to talk to our kids and get feedback, and they like it. They want to have choice. They enjoy that they get to pick. There's
Yeah.
some power in student choice.
For sure. How about parents? Have you heard any comments from them?
Yeah, we did an initial parent sheet. This is what's happening. This is what we're doing. But I haven't had a lot of feedback on it from parents. I do have an opportunity to talk to parents coming up in a little bit, and it'll be something we ask. But at this time, I don't have any concerns from parents.
Yeah, no
but
news is good news sometimes,
Yeah.
right?
So I haven't individually said, hey, how is this going? What do you think?
Awesome. So, knowing that we're going to wrap up the year yet in a little bit, how do you imagine this is going to involve maybe next year? I mean, do you think you're in a pretty good sweet spot with it? I mean, I'm just, the wheels are turning in my mind. Like, could you eventually maybe, do you ever see yourself asking the kids, like, what would be some interesting classes that maybe aren't listed here that you would suggest, and see if some teachers are like, oh, I could do that class? Like, do you see this evolving into something else or a different iteration of it next year?
Yeah, I think that's a great thought. I think that as we have seen success, I think staff has even started to say, oh, wait, I would love to do this. But I meet with a student focus group 4 times a year. And one of the questions in my meeting that's coming up next week is, hey, how is 0 hour or enrichment 0 hour going? What do you like about it? What things would you encourage us to have? Because I want teachers to have some opportunity to think about it this summer. Hey, these are some of the kids' ideas. Does anyone interested in this? Does anyone want to run with it? Or are you happy with what you did this year? Do you want to do the same thing? Because I would like to give them more time to prep this summer for those that are my planners to really think about it. Others may not want to, but at least put it out there. I also sent a survey to our staff to ask them, as next year comes, do you want to add it more often? Do we want to try to find ways to have it every Wednesday, or is twice a month good right now? And the staff, there are some that said, yes, I'd love it. But as a majority, we're going to stick with just 2 days again next year, because I think that we're in that kind of sweet spot, and we don't want it to become too much where planning and prepping for it takes the joy away. And so right now we're going to stick with that sweet spot and just do it the twice a month, and then we'll go from there. But I think choice in what classes are taught may evolve.
Awesome. So I've had the opportunity over the last couple of weeks to talk to a lot of different people about different, innovative things they're doing in their school, and not necessarily related to, tech, right? And AI. I know a lot of people when they think about innovation, but it seems like a lot of people are really looking at schedules in creative ways to give kids either flexibility or choice or interventions, right? Academic-based interventions. And so I know a lot of work goes into that, especially anytime you're talking about changing the bell schedule and it feels like sometimes you're asking teachers to do extra or more, and depending on your situation, right, that can be a challenge. So what advice would you give to others that have been thinking about doing something similar, even whether it's an enrichment opportunity like this, or it really is more of an academic intervention focus? What advice, considerations, things that they need to think about?
Yeah, it's a great question. One of the biggest things is you're never going to know if you don't try. That's something that I take to heart. You got to try something to see if it's going to work. But to get something off the ground, I think it's important that you have shared leadership, that you have, you've got your team around you that supports the idea, that can be those positive people that can go out. So starting with my building school improvement team was a great way to have one voice from every department to hear the idea, to be able to kind of speak to it, feel like they had ownership in it, to help kind of blossom the idea into what it became. Obviously, as the building leader and the one that makes the master schedule, I came up with the times and what this looks like, but the idea, why is this important? I guess the purpose, the why, came from a shared understanding from every member of this shared team, this leadership team. So I think the best advice I can give is don't be afraid to try something, because you're not going to know if you don't try it. And next, don't forget to also think about students' voices as you try something new. Make sure that students it's important to hear from them, especially in middle school. All they want to do is be heard. And if we don't take the time to talk to them, we might miss something.
Absolutely. Great advice. Well, hey, I really appreciate your time. I really love this idea, and I hope others who are listening really consider offering something like this. I even though you're middle school, I don't see why somebody couldn't do this at a high school level either. I think it makes a lot of sense, of course, at that middle level age. But really appreciate your time, Kim, and hopefully some people might reach out to pick your brain to see how they can offer something at their school.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate it. And again, always open to talking through with anybody that wants to pick brains or to brainstorm even more new, innovative ideas, because that's what we got to do in education.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you for listening to the MASSP podcast. Remember, you can listen to this podcast and others anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Just search for MASSP or hit the subscribe button right now.